Hi, it's Natasha.
And Khalil.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
Thank you for tuning in to our 211th episode of WokeNFree. If you've been tuning in every week for WokeNFree Wednesday, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything important to us, you, the world, and nothing is off the table. This week we're asking a very interesting question, which is, would you ever live in outer space? Before we dive deep into that subject, a couple of things to cover. First, make sure you go to WokeNFree.com to download this episode in addition to listening to it. Why? Because by downloading it through the Podbean app, that's how you show your number one support for the show. But of course, that's how you add your thoughts and your comments. And so if you can't add your comments, we don't know what you think. And thus, we're not having a WokeNFree conversation. So make sure you do that. Now, if you, for some reason, cannot download additional apps on whatever device you listen to podcasts on, then make sure you go to WokeNFree.com, go to the Listen tab, and you are following and subscribed to the show on whatever platform you are catching this on. So, for instance, we're on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play. We have our YouTube channel, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora. Guys, it's a WokeNFree world, so just make sure you're on all those places. Now, of course, we'd also love for you to go to WokeNFree.com on the homepage to subscribe to the show via email. That way you get email notifications every time we have a new episode, and that way you'll never forget what the new episode is for the week. Now, on social media, please find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn at WokeNFree. And then, of course, if you have 90 seconds, we'd love for you to do what? You could do a lot, but we'd love for you to review the show. Again, go to WokeNFree.com, go to the Listen tab, and pick your platform of choice where you want to review the show at. I'm going to kick it back to you now, Khalil.
All right. I'll just jump right into the episode then and ask a great question that I guess the listeners, they want to know the answer to. And it's specifically, would you ever live in outer space?
So the answer to that is going to be a yes, but I do have certain requirements because I am Natasha Nurse. So my requirements to arrive at that yes is the following. I definitely still need the ability to receive things like Amazon in outer space.
Good job.
I don't know if that's possible, but that would be a requirement. I need to be able to shop. It's a part of my therapeutic existence. I need it. I love it. Also, as a foodie and, I don't know if I'll be a fat girl for the rest of my life, but I know growing up fat and currently being fat, and I own that with all the love and attention that goes to that word. I wouldn't want food or water to be scarce if I was living in outer space. So again, if that could be accomplished, and also I don't want food like those, like emergency bags, like you're dying, like that's not the only type of, I still want steak, mac and cheese. Where's the cake? Maybe some cupcakes, they
have that.
Cookies, and it has to taste good just like on Earth. So that would be a requirement.
Well.
And then also 0% chance of some type of alien-like disaster, where the alien creep like breaks out of the human body and then eats everyone. None of that could happen in outer space. So if those are the things that could happen, then it's an easy yes for me. How about you?
So then it's not happening in your lifetime, basically.
Why are those my requirements not fulfillable in my lifetime?
Definitely not.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess not then. Sure.
So currently, with current technology, you wouldn't be able to live in space because of the stuff that you want.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's unfortunate. Okay.
Yeah. For me, it's easy to say yes. I think it'd be extremely satisfying, actually. But the one thing I got to point out, first of all, is that I'd like to be in a space station because if I'm just in outer space, I would perish.
Oh, like just in a suit kind of situation. Yeah.
Yeah, if you just were left out in space, like I want to make that known, is I would have to be in a space station.
Ship or something. Yeah.
Yeah, a station that was good for life forms, because otherwise that's it for me.
Okay.
Because the things I think about certain pros and cons. So for me, the pros of living in outer space is floating around and being able to do some flips. Like, I don't know, that seems kind of fun. Like, people enjoy doing that, and I would enjoy doing that too. I would enjoy the views. The views are like breathtaking. You can't see nothing like that anywhere else you go. So that's what I love about being in space. And then I just like not being tied down by gravity, because I feel like gravity's always pulling on me when I'm on Earth. So I would like a chance to get away from it where it's not so strong. It doesn't have such a strong grip on me.
Okay.
Now, the cons I think of are that it people actually age faster when you're in space.
That
and
sucks.
So what they've found is that people have like a loss of bone mass. Their immune system has like certain dysfunctions, and they also have skeletal strength loss. And that's just the effects of living in outer space. So another thing like you mentioned is, well, one is Amazon is not going to be delivering to you like next day delivery. None of that. There's that doesn't happen, right? Deliveries are actually super expensive to space because they got to put it on rockets and blast them off to you. Because you'd have to deliver from some planet, so...
Well, I was thinking
that's
that if we're in a space station, that there's like an Amazon center. And so that way you'd order food or things and it would
But you gotta hope that they can produce everything on there then.
Yeah.
See, they'd have to be able to build... They have to have manufacturing plants.
Like 100 years from now or something. Yeah.
Even more, because you gotta... you don't even have... There's no resources on a space station. You have to take all the resources from a planet, put it on the space station, and then what happens when you run out of the resource? You still got to go back and get it.
Yeah.
Compared to on Earth, even though we have limited resources, the resources are right there. On space station, they're not. You got to put them on there. So deliveries will always be expensive and slow compared to just being on the planet.
That's crazy.
And then a big thing for you, and it would make you really sad, you didn't mention, is that if you game online, it'll be real laggy, so you'll be upset.
Oh, that's the real issue for me.
Because
gaming online.
Yeah, because when you play Mario Kart, you get mad when people get an upper hand from glitching out.
I think you just mean the general internet usage would be frustrating.
No, it wouldn't. Actually, it's pretty good. I looked it up. It's not as great. Okay. It's faster than our internet, I think.
I don't know how much online gaming I would do when I'm in outer space, but good to know.
Yeah, you'd be doing online gaming. That's the thing. Well, so what are your pros and cons?
Well, since you talked about it, I would say, let's see. So I want to share in the episode actually this really interesting link from environmentalconscious.com. They talk about pros and cons. So they list the following. So one would be, it can provide humanity with additional resources. So I guess they're saying like having the expansion is going to be helpful. They also say that space travel could help us find extraterrestrial life. So, discovery of, the foreign entities. Like I said, as long as that's scary movie alien-like, then that's cool.
That's space travel though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, but I think it's within the context of outer space, right? Whether you're in one part of space or traveling. Because
if you're in a space station, I mean, that's not that big of a deal. It's not that far from Earth. Yeah. Or it depends where you are in outer space, I guess. Yeah, maybe.
They mentioned you could learn humility, which, to your point, because the existence itself, it has to be accustomed to you have to learn how to live differently. I guess you'll be more humble, that's actually a really good thing to learn, because I think that there's maybe not enough of that in our society, and individually. And then of course, it's been a dream of many people to not only probably live in outer space, but to explore it. So, this would be kind of fulfilling people's dreams. And when people have their dreams fulfilled, then they, have a new sense of hope and purpose. So I think those are some good pros to mention. Now, some cons that they mentioned would be problems with radiation. So that's interesting. I can't speak to that necessally.
But you can't speak to what?
Like, I don't know what the radiation, what they mean by that. Like, is it radiation from like what? From the devices that would be out there? Is it from other type of stars? Like, I'm not sure scientifically what they're referring to.
There's a ton of radiation from the sun,
but
that we're shielded from being on Earth.
They mentioned mental problems for astronauts, which I could understand. It's a new way of living, so I think it creates a new scenario of mental health issues. So that's a huge con.
Wow,
and
really?
then also it could be quite costly, which in our world, money talks. So that would be problematic. And also, this is an interesting con mentioned, may not be in line with religious values. So that's interesting. I guess
don't know what that means.
Depending upon whatever religious community you're a part of, is this in alignment with that?
Does any religion speak to not living in outer space?
I know.
That is some big interpretation there.
I think what it does is it forces you to question maybe more fundamentalist belief systems, right? Because there's definitely no mention, there's no mention of dinosaurs in, say, the King James
There's no mention of the internet either.
Exactly.
So hopefully they're not using the internet, the same people that question space living.
I think the point is it forces you to really embrace science in a whole new way. And again, if that's something that's challenging for you and or your religious beliefs, that would be, you know, some con to consider. And then they mentioned extraterrestrial life forms may wipe out humanity. So that's just like a funny fear of
that, you could say that living anywhere, you can be wiped out.
We could be wiped out being on Earth, actually. Yeah. So,
and we will be wiped out if you stay here long enough.
Exactly.
So I don't think of that as a real con.
Gotcha. So I think from that we can move on to the next question, which is, do you believe there will be a time that where humans will actually leave Earth and we will live in outer space then?
You know, this can only be possible when humans aren't made of fleshy material, because just living in outer space, it's a detriment on all living organisms, except for I forgot, there's the Yogi Bear, or I forgot what it's called.
Cartoons?
No, there's this one organism that could survive in outer space. I forgot. It's something. It looks like a bear under a microscope.
Creepy.
I forgot what it's called. It's something bear. Only they can survive in outer space because they can live and they hibernate their whole body. It goes into
not cockroaches.
No, they wouldn't survive outer space either. They could die. That's what I'm saying. You can't be fleshy. You got to be the bear thing. The water bear. I forgot what it's called, but yeah.
Some type of amoeba-like creature, you're saying?
It's not an amoeba though. It's more advanced than an amoeba.
Interesting.
That's what's crazy about it. It's kind of like a bacteria, but not a bacteria.
Okay. But you think in this form of how humans exist, it would be too challenging?
Yeah, it's not happening. Just based on even how long people have lived there currently, because the record right now is 438 days minus a couple of hours according to largest.org. And it's like I was telling you, when you're in space, you start to degrade. So right now we got to figure that out, right? Because if you're degrading in space, how long would you survive in that degraded state? Like, can you keep going on? It's hard. I mean, exercising is hard as well, but even with exercise, that doesn't get rid of those other issues that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Well, according to popsci.com, they say the following. We know that in 2 billion years or so, an expanding sun will boil away our oceans, leaving our home in the universe uninhabitable. Unless, that is, we haven't already been wiped out by the Andromeda galaxy, which is on a multi-billion year collision course with our Milky Way. Moreover, at least a third of the 1,000-mile wide asteroids that hurtle across our orbital path will eventually crash into us at a rate of about 1 every 300,000 years. So if these estimations come to pass, then living in outer space is definitely happening. Just thankfully not likely in our lifetime. So that is...
Well, thankfully, which is the thankful part? That we're not going to be destroyed by the asteroids in our lifetime? Or we're not living in outer space in our lifetime?
That's a great question. I would say both. But no, but I think to this information that was just shared, I think I'm grateful to not live in a time where, we're going to be either killed by some asteroid or some type of, sun kind of
the sun thing is going to happen. That galaxy thing is debatable, though.
Like, that's all really weird. So
the galaxy collision is a debatable thing, though, because galaxies collide all the time and the planets survive the collisions because there's a lot of space in betwin. So I don't know what this article's talking about.
To answer the question, well, you, like everyone else, can click on the link on WokeNFree.com.
Yeah.
But I would say, to answer the question, do I think it's inevitable for human beings to be in outer space? Yes, because I don't think life on Earth is everlasting. So if humanity is to continue, I think we have to leave the planet. It's just a matter of when. And like, to your point, then how, right? Is it our physical form as is, or do we transcend, like in that movie, right? Transcendent or whatever, Transcendence, that we will maybe be in another form when we exist somewhere else. So all up in the air, I guess.
And the other thing is we don't necessarily have to live in outer space. We could live on a planet too.
That's true.
That's not living in outer space. That's living on a planet.
Yeah, so it's just living in another planet. So it's open. Are we going to be
outer space?
Are we going to be outer space or on another planet?
The planet is the most likely because, like I told you, moving resources into space is not easy.
Yeah.
Talk about costly. That's a lot.
Gotcha.
Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario? It's scenario time, guys. Scenario number 1. Beatrix is terrified that global warming will make the Earth uninhabitable for humans eventually. She is wondering if she should work on building a space station for her friends and family to live on. Is this a real option for her?
Is this a real question, Khalil?
You're speaking to Beatrix. Because she has these questions.
Am I now?
Yes, you are. And she's going to be lovely that people could care for her so much to answer her question.
Your sentence. You don't make no sense.
No, but she's going to be very happy. She's going to say, these
Excellent.
thoughtful people.
Well, hello, Beatrix. Thanks for being a fan of
Because somebody has this question.
Of course they do. And the question is, your likelihood of being able to build your own space station for just you and your friends and family is highly unlikely. So get a grip and try again.
Wow,
most likely as there's going to be a space station for, I don't know, like 100,000 people, not just you and your 12 people in your family and friend group. Like that's really
But the numbers you're saying is like, I think that's how many people are on the International Space Station. It's something low. Like you just said, your number. They can't fit 100,000 people on our best space station to date. I was
hoping for like a high number, just in the case that like we eventually will get there. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe space stations will only be like accommodate up to 500 people. Like I'm not sure.
Well, unless they're the size of the moon, then the moon can accommodate a lot of people, I think.
Gotcha. Okay, but the answer is no. The answer is unless she is a trillionaire, I really don't think it's possible. What's your thoughts?
So yeah, that's the trick in this question. We don't know how much money she has. So she's probably a billionaire if she's even thinking on this level. So
or delusional. I mean, it's what are the two?
I mean, with a name like Beatrix, you got to be wealthy.
Don't put people in categories.
Oh, okay, the name doesn't tell you how much money she has.
No, definitely not.
All right, so that didn't tell us. But I would guess that if she's even thinking of building a space station, she must have money. That's what I think. So
okay.
I think it's not a real option though, because to build the space station is tough. And then you're going to have to get all those clearances to be able to launch it into space. I don't know if it's going to really go down, to be honest. But I think the intentions are good though. Maybe she should think of like improving on the current space station and making it viable for multitudes of people. Maybe that would be the better thing. Or I don't know, maybe it should be privatized, because that's what they're doing now. They're privatizing trips to space. So it's not an option though right now to answer the question.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something to look into, because I think we need to improve our space station and maybe try to figure out how people can live in space and not degrade. If you can figure that out, that's cool.
All I say, though, is we have to think outside of our inner circles, because that's a little bit of the problem, it seems like, with our humanity, which is that, like, we care for our own, but, like, we are all a part of a global community and a global economy. So when one of us hurt, we all hurt. When one of us win, we all win. And so this idea that I'm only going to look out for mine, is just a little bit, I think, a little bit too insular and not necessarily as helpful for the overall societal growth.
All right, that's true. Scenario 2. Todrick feels weighed down on the planet we call Earth. He wants to live someplace where he weighs less. Is this possible, or will his weight be the same everywhere in the universe?
Okay, well, I would definitely have to look up the scientific answer for that. I don't know if his weight will be the same everywhere else in the universe. I mean,
wow.
I would imagine yes, but I'd have to definitely verify that. And to be weighted down on planet Earth makes me think that there's more emotional issues going on than some type of physical scenario that we're addressing here. But either way, I would tell him to try to work on mental health and wellness generally. And I would say, if he's really interested in feeling a little bit more weightless, then look into the astronaut program, and hopefully if he's eligible, then maybe pursue that career so that he can float around and, feel a little bit less heavy, in air quotes.
Yeah, see, this question's good because there's a lot of people that want to change their weight. So this applies to them.
Lord have mercy. What's your answer?
So the answer is it's actually, this is what's cool, because weight isn't actually it doesn't stand on its own. It's tied to gravity. Mm-hmm. So depending how much gravity you experience, that's directly correlated to your weight.
So he will weigh different. Okay.
Yeah, his weight will change depending where he is. Just like they say in space, technically you're weightless. You're not actually experiencing enough gravity to be weighed down. The one thing that you always can't change though is be your mass. So his mass will be the same, but his actual weight will be different. So it'll change and it won't be the same everywhere in the universe. That's the answer to that question.
All right.
I can't tell you the exact numbers, but you can calculate it. It does exist.
Okay.
Scenario 3. Conchata is addicted to the internet and feels living in space would prevent her from getting her daily fix. Is she correct in thinking she would have the worst internet access ever?
Well, so I would say, prior to not hearing your statement earlier, that I would have assumed that being in outer space meant that your internet access would be kind of defunct, but only because I just don't even understand how I have internet issues on planet Earth. So I'm just like, how's it even going to work elsewhere? But to your point, you said earlier that, surprisingly, that would not necessarily be the go-to answer. So to answer your question, no, she's not correct in her thinking, and that, she should have a more of a growth mindset and say, hey, obviously internet matters, and it's not just going to matter on Earth, it's going to matter elsewhere. So, she shouldn't necessarily think, being in space, her connection to the internet is going to be diminished, but she should work on, again, wellness, and, we all can get obsessive. I can get obsessive about things as well. Why are we addicted to the internet, right? What exactly is this feeding her, and can she get her fix through other things in life? Because you should never be so dependent on anyone or anything in the world where if you don't have it, then, your life implodes. That's not it's not the best way to exist, that, because then you're beholden to something. And then if that means that if it's taken away, you'll implode. So that seems really scary.
But she loves her addiction, so why would she ever want to give it up?
Well, a lot of people love addictions, but it doesn't mean that that's right? It just means that you aren't gaining or looking past your own perspective at that moment. Because
it's hard when you look at the addiction as not something negative or evil.
Yeah.
See, then it's like, why get rid of it? I mean, it's like I'm addicted to it, but it's a good thing in my mind, so why?
But
stop.
The reason is because if you don't have something, then you start to feel bad and you start to feel icky, right? And so why attach yourself to anything to the point where you are, I'm not suggesting, be a Buddhist or go and live and be a monk and not need anything. But I'm saying that at the end of the day, we always have to look around and just understand, okay, well, why are you so attached to things? Because attachment means that that thing has power over you. And so do you really want to live in a life where X amount of things have power over you? It's just a question to ask yourself. And if the answer is no, then what are you going to do about it?
All right. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yeah, you already answered the question, and I mentioned earlier, she's definitely wrong in her thinking. But the key comes down to if she's like you and she wants to play Mario Kart in space, that's where it's going to get a little bit rough, because, that you might lag a little bit. Be like, your internet speeds are quick, but that latency is not going to be quite up to what you're used to. So that'd be the only problem. But streaming, you could stream Netflix because the internet is pretty fast up there. I was surprised to find that out. That's the biggest surprise I found out about space.
That's cool.
I guess astronauts probably complain. They're like, man, when I'm back home, I can stream video, but how come up here we can't? So that's why they just upgraded them, and they got a nice little connection there. They can really stream some heavy data stuff, so
Very cool.
She's wrong. And then her addiction to the internet, I can't speak on this in this episode. That's all I could say. This episode isn't about addiction. That's all I know.
To be or not to be addicted to the internet, is that something that we need to talk about
that's
separately?
That's a whole other topic. I'm not going to touch that.
That's so interesting. Okay, adding to the docket.
People don't know if that's a true statement or not.
Addiction to the internet?
Yeah. People know that addiction to video game is a thing, but internet,
okay,
people don't know.
Can you be addicted to the internet?
And the internet specifically, we're not singling out, we're not saying social media, because people say that already. Social media could be, but we're saying the internet of itself.
Adding to the docket, guys. Be on the lookout.
Yeah, true. I got your docket right where you need it.
Okay, we're keeping it PG, sir. Get
good, because you're talking about that, so I brought it up.
I was not referring to that.
No, you're talking about dockets, so I can't bring up that.
Yeah, but how you said it was filthy. I wasn't speaking in such filthy terms.
Oh, okay.
You're so indecent.
I didn't realize that was indecent. I thought that was a...
Of course you wouldn't.
It was a pleasant way to put it, is what I would call it.
It's only pleasant for you in outer space, sir.
No, and Conchata.
Okay, muy bueno. So with that, we are at that time again. Thank goodness. It is coming to the end of our 211th episode of... WokeNFree! Quite the episode asking and answering the question of, would you ever live in outer space?
Come back next week with a new Woken Free Wednesday episode. Make sure you follow us on social media to follow along in the conversation, and make sure you tune in next week for Woken Free Wednesday to join the conversation at WokeNFree.com.
Now, if you want to be a guest on the show or submit a topic that you think we should cover, then you should hit us up on our Contact Us page at WokenFree.com. So that's WokenFree.com. Now, on social media, you can always find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn at WokenFree, guys. And now, for sponsorships or collaborations, again, similar page, the Contact Us page. Woohoo! No surprise there. At WokenFree.com.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do. Share the episode. And make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for Woken Free Wednesdays. Remember, Woken Free is more than a podcast. It is a way of life. Until next time.